Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. Today, we've partnered with iBank on IT and Gary Anzarut. Hi, Gary. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you, AJ?
I'm doing just fine. I also have Anthony Estelle, who's our market vice president. He'll be in the Q&A panel answering some questions. He'll also be with Gary and I later on to take any questions. Anthony, you want to say hi to everybody?
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining.
So Gary, I'm going to turn it over to you, but real quick before we get there, real quick housekeeping note. Please enter any questions you have down here in the Q&A panel. That helps us keep track of the questions and make sure they get answered. If you ask a question, you're entered to win a prize. That prize today is a Bose SoundLink speaker, a very nice speaker. All of this is also being recorded, so you have to step away. You missed something, you want to go back to it. This is all going to be recorded. You'll get a link to it in your email. It'll also be on go.expedient.com/webinar replays, youtube.com/expedient, and instagram.com/_expedient. And with that, I'll turn it over to Gary. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, AJ. Appreciate it. First of all, thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate it. Before we get started, we just want to talk a little bit about iBank on IT. If you're not familiar with who we are, we've been in business for about 25 years. We really specialize in partnering with our customers to help leverage technology to drive and provide positive business outcomes. We work across the entire technology stack. So everything that you need from a help desk support or laptop or anything to the cloud, we do all that. And then one of the things that I think really differentiate us is that we're really is important to us is providing a great customer experience, and we do that along every step of the way to make sure that we're delivering on the expectations that our customers are looking for, that we're hitting all the milestones, and at the end of the day, we've done that job effectively to everybody's satisfaction. Can you go to the next slide? Some of the reasons why customers do business with iBank is we're very flexible and easy to work with. That's where our motto, maximize value, minimize hassle, comes from. We try to make it easy to do business with and work with our customers. We try to leverage, whatever infrastructure you currently have. So we don't necessarily want to force you to new technologies. We want to make sure that we understand your business, the things that you're trying to achieve, and then understand what you've already invested in to see if we can use those tools and resources to continue down that path. We're very responsive, so we try to get back to you quickly, and we're very honest and transparent with how we deal with our customers. We try to be cost effective, so hopefully we can help reduce some costs and drive some efficiencies. And we also believe we have all the right people and the processes and the different technologies that are available to you, to your organization, to help you achieve any kind of IT project that you're looking for. Next slide. And then here's just a high overview of some of the services that we do provide. So again, any IT help desk, whether it's managed services or break fix on an hourly basis or a project basis, we can do. Obviously, any strategy, consulting work, telecom services. So that's any kind of network of voice, unified communications, telephony type of things. We can help support customers. Obviously, data center and cloud, like we're doing with Expedient today. With everything you do, security is an important part. So, we certainly have the resources and the ability to help you look at security services, whether it's traditional firewall or intrusion detection or DDoS or whatever, we can help. And then from a hardware perspective, if you need help in sourcing hardware, we can help provide resources and knowledge around that and help you procure that. And that's just really iBank at a high level. We've worked with Expedient for a number of years. Really proud to be part of this and representing the organization, and appreciate everybody joining, and hopefully you'll find today informative and helpful. AJ, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Gary. By the way, my name is AJ Kuftik. I'm Principal Technologist with Expedient. For those of you who are new to Expedient, we were founded in 2001. We started in co-location, moved into managed services, and are now in cloud. We have cloud locations in US East, Central, and West. 2 of those locations are in the Baltimore market. We have international cloud deployments on customer sites as well. So we have them in Australia, Germany, and Canada. So if our cloud locations don't work, we can bring that cloud to you, and that applies domestically as well. We're a VMware cloud provider and have been since 2007. We have tens of thousands of virtual machines on our platform. So this gives us a massive scale and ability to meet not just small needs, but big ones as well. But when we talk about cloud and what an enterprise cloud really means, I I want to talk about work first and kind of where we put our time and our effort. At the top and first and foremost, we have business projects. This is where IT can have a direct impact to the bottom line of the business, a new revenue project, something that is trying to bring new money into the business. We also have internal projects. These are things like architecture changes to be more resilient or more reliable to the business, or maybe even provide automation around making things more self-service. We also have unplanned work, and just as it says, it's work that's not planned. And those are things like servers going down, networks going down. And we try really hard with things like internal projects to eliminate the amount of unplanned work that we have. And finally, we have planned work. And this is where we at Expedient find people spend a lot of their time for no real reason. And it's all the work that we do to keep the lights on. Things like hardware refreshes, patching, storage migrations, those sorts of things. They're just kind of wheel spin, right? And if we group them just a little bit higher, the project work is high value work. This is the stuff that actually provides a real value back to the business. And it's what we as IT want to be a part of. On the bottom, we have low value work. It's not no value work. There's still a value in doing it. But to the business, it's not a huge value. You're just keeping the lights on. If you do this work, you're doing like the bare minimum of what your job is supposed to be. And if you don't do it well, you fail and you're fired. So we want to avoid that. And when we look at things like cloud, we see things like on-premises being a big challenge. These are things where you have a existing skill set in the same applications you've been running for years, but they're the same applications you've been running for years, right? You've been running them. These applications are 2+ years old, but that skill set that you have around how to support your network, how to support your applications, operating systems, so on and so forth, goes a really long way. It's something that you've built from the ground up there. The problem is that on-prem technology has no agility at all. And the large reason for that is that on-prem IT is all CapEx. It is all big purchases. Storage is expensive, networks are expensive, servers are expensive, licenses are expensive. It's expensive the entire way around. And so when we start to talk about how to be more agile and meet the needs of the business, an on-prem model just doesn't work. It's very difficult to do that when you still have to go buy and maintain the entire platform that goes around it. And a lot of this work is manually driven. You know where to click, but it's still very manually driven. And it's not easy for someone to come in and try to automate all of that. And so a lot of businesses start to look to the cloud. They start to look at places like hyperscale clouds. The problem is hyperscale doesn't really solve that. That's AWS, that's Amazon and Azure and Google. All three of these don't really solve the problem that you have. There's 10 different services on that diagram alone. And so you have to go learn all 10 of those services and learn how to design an application to be the right fit for a hyperscale cloud. And that requires a new skill set. You can translate some of your knowledge, but not all of it. And it doesn't always translate directly. And so there's a big ramp up in terms of time that you and your staff have to go on to be able to be very successful in the cloud. And a lot of time, this requires an app refactor. This requires things to be rewritten. And when you're a shop that runs a lot of commodity off-the-shelf software, that's not easy, especially when you don't have any control over the code. You're running version 8 of what vendor B's software. If they don't make it for the cloud, they don't offer a SaaS platform, you can pick it up and put it into an EC2 instance. You're just going to pay a lot of money for the exact same thing that you have on-prem today. And so what we look for when we're looking to move to hyperscale, what we want from this though, is we want that agility and elasticity. We want the ability to take on more resources when we need them for our big season and shrink them immensely when we don't, right? Things like health insurance, retail, accounting systems, those sorts of things that have pretty well-defined big seasons. Accounting, year-end closing. Retail has the current holiday period. Health insurance has their open enrollment period. They want to be able to scale up to meet the needs of the customers and shrink back down and only pay for what they're using. And that's driven by a monthly OpEx. which is why we really want to focus on how to actually get that without having to completely refactor everything. And when we start talking about automation, hyperscale clouds are API driven. And this is why a lot of developers and a lot of shops have started to look towards hyperscale cloud, because they can write code to go do all of their deployments. They don't have to fight about it. They can just say, hey, I need another VM. As part of my code, boom, there's a new VM. I can deploy my code into it and keep moving. It allows the business to go faster. It allows your developers to go faster, but at a lot of challenges to just try and make everything work around that. So there has to be some sort of balance in the middle, a way where I can take my existing skill set and my same applications, because changing those applications is hard, but get that elasticity, that monthly OpEx, and all of those API-driven capabilities so I can move the business forward. And that's what our hyperscale cloud is. We combine the best of both worlds and build that balance. So it's really neat to talk about, but I'm going to run through a demo here because I think seeing is believing. So let's jump into this demo real fast here. We start on the outside at our login prompt. We offer two-factor authentication for our platform. So if I type in my password here, send that in, and I approve my two-factor authentication, it goes in. From here, we now have the ability to provide a number of role-based access controls. On the front end, I have my 701 data center, my ACM data center, so I can see all of my resources across the multiple data centers that Expedient has. We have a number of data centers, including 2 in Baltimore and Tide Point and Owings Mills. So if I go in, I go to administration, I can see all of the users that are in here, but I can also see roles. These are the out-of-the-box defined roles, but I can go in as the user or as an admin of this platform, which you would be if you were a customer, and provide these roles yourself. You can maybe grant view rights to everything, or maybe you want to scroll down and only give your developers the ability to edit CPU, hard disk memory, network, and create, but I don't want to give them delete rights so they don't accidentally delete something, right? This is what we call a co-managed system. We manage the platform, you manage your little piece of it, so you still have the control that you need for your organization. If we go into our libraries, this is where our VApp templates come from. And we offer a number of them out of the box. So the 2012 R2 to 2019 templates, these are Windows templates, basic Windows install with VMware tools, and they're patched to the latest patches. You're capable of using those at no charge. You just pay for the resources that you're using after that. But you can also bring your own. This AJK LAMP and AJK WP, these are images from Bitnami. I downloaded them as OVAs and I imported them in so we can actually use them and deploy our own image. That allows you to bring your own image from your on-prem platform today. So if you have a Windows image, a Linux image, or something else that you really happen to like, you can drop it right in and keep moving without having to figure out what's the best way to build this for AWS or whatever. It's all built in to the platform here. We also have the concept of data center groups. So I can take 2 data centers and logically group them together for my platform. So I have our environment in 701, which is in Indianapolis, and ACM, which is in Pittsburgh. And if I go in here, I can move my egress points across them. This is actually a big part of our push button DR solution. So our DR as a service to be able to fail over from one data center to another without any external IP or DNS changes. It just fails over and your applications come back up. It's really, really neat. And I highly recommend going and seeing some of our demos on our website. One of the other pieces of that is that we offer stretch networking. So I can have a network in Pittsburgh and a network in Indianapolis, and they're the same IP range across. So I don't have to re-IP things for DR. I don't have to re-IP things when we're bringing things in. And as part of our delivery process, we can help you migrate your networks in or your IP ranges in to make it that much easier as part of the migration process. So if I go back to libraries, I'm going to go deploy a VM. So I'm going to pick this WordPress instance here. And we'll go ahead and give it a name. And I'm going to set my runtime lease to never expire. If you have maybe a test workload that you want to spin up or you want to do something that's very temporary, you can stand it up and it'll automatically shut off after a set number of hours. It's just a function in there. You don't have to do it. You can just set it to never expire. I'm going to pick our ACM data center And this is going to land it on the vSAN storage that powers our enterprise cloud. And then from a networking standpoint, I'm going to go ahead and pick this SA demo network because that gives me the ability to stretch layer 2 across 2 different data centers. So if I have to fail this VM over for a disaster, I can do that without any sort of problems. And I'm going to take DHCP. You can also set static IPs or use an IP pool to set the IP address on the VM. One of our other big differentiators is that we don't offer t-shirt sizes. You can build your VMs however you'd like to. We have a concept called resource pools. You get a set amount of resources that you're able to use and spin up and spin down inside of them, and you pay per month for that whole resource pool. That gives you a very predictable monthly cost. There's no big eyeball bugging out of your head. Oh, why did I spend so much money? Because we used too much or we didn't shut something down. The resource pool is the same every single month, and that gives you a very predictable cost that makes your CIO and your CFO happy. But what we can do here is I can set the number of CPUs and cores per socket, just like you would in your existing vCenter. And I can pick any number of gigs of RAM that I want to put inside my VM. So I'm going to pick this one's 2 gigs. And I can also set my hard disk size. So if I have an appliance that I know doesn't really need to change, I can set the hard disk and be done. Or I can add another drive. I can add more storage to this existing drive and have it meet the needs of the applications that I'm bringing in. We'll click next and finish, and that'll go off and deploy. So while that's deploying, let's take a look inside of our ACM data center. And you can see the VM list that we have here. And one of the nice capabilities of our platform is that it looks very similar to what you're running today. And that's because it's very similar to what you're running today. It's the same vCenter, same ESX, NSX, and vSAN on the bottom that you would run on-prem. So the way that your applications perform on-prem is the way they're going to perform here. Maybe our hardware is a little bit newer, but you don't have to worry about any of the patching or any of the maintenance that goes behind that. That's on us to take care of. So you get all the benefits of a VMware platform without all the effort. Sounds pretty great, right? When I go into my networks, I can see my stretch network here at the top, but I can also see I have a number of other options. I have this isolated network, which has the same IP range, but it's more of a quarantine network. Maybe I have this for cross-cluster connections, or I have it for quarantine. If something is breached, I can move it into that network and I can't talk to anything. So we're able to bring in a bunch of different network capabilities because of that power of NSX on the back end of the platform. And if I go into my NSX Edge, I can actually see some of the services that are available. So things like we can do our external firewall. So this is our Edge firewall. And along with our Juniper VSRX firewall, we can provide a number of firewall capabilities into the platform. Again, we manage the platform, you manage the rules, which is the more important part for you. So all of these rules are user creatable, editable, changeable. You can do everything that you need to do here. We also have the capability of bringing in a DHCP infrastructure, so I can do things like provide DHCP addresses to my existing VMs, or if I have something like maybe Infoblocks or Microsoft DNS and DHCP that I've put a lot of time and invested in, I can relay my networks to that and have that provide all the same DHCP capabilities. We also offer a layer 4 load balancer here. So this is our ability to provide local load balancing inside of this data center. Say I have one IP that I want to serve from 2 different VMs. I can do that through this load balancer capability. It's baked into the platform. You just go ahead and use it. We also offer global state load balancing. So if I want to balance across 2 different data centers, we can do that as well.
Hey, AJ, do we want to see if anybody has any questions? I think there's a couple that have come up on the Q&A.
Yeah, so I see one question here. Will you provide a definition of a hybrid cloud, and does Expedient offer those services? So we are offering the ability to connect from our data center and our cloud to hyperscale cloud. So if you want to go into AWS for a specific platform or any sort of different capability, you can go ahead and do that from our data center with our high-speed connectivity. Obviously, the Baltimore data center happens to be quite close to US East 1 and all the other data centers down there in Ashburn. So there's a number of capabilities that we can offer to get you there faster. In fact, one of the big pieces here is that you can land your existing applications on this platform, and then that gives you the time and ability to start to build your next generation applications if you want to use a hyperscale platform without having to worry about all the management and day-to-day activity that goes along with this. So if I go into my vApps, I can see that my VM down here is stopped, which is fine. That's the way that it's, whenever you do a new deployment, it deploys and then stops it. So now this is going to power on. And if I go into this, I can see my VM. I can see that it's powering on and the IP address that it grabs. And if I hit this three dot drop down, I can see all of the same things that I saw inside my normal vCenter that's on-prem, right? Things like power on, power off reset, create snapshot, launch the web console, all of the same capabilities without having to manage a vCenter and hosts and all that other stuff. You get the capabilities you want without all the headaches that you don't. So if I launch the web console, I can see my VM come up, and I can see that it grabbed this 97.105 address. And if I put that IP address in, I can pull up the WordPress site. Very simple, very straightforward way of doing those. But let's say, for the sake of this, that I wanted to monitor this, right? I want to make sure that my VMs, when they come up, that I have the capability to keep track of things. vRealize operation is baked into the platform, and you get that as part of this. It's not an add-on, it's not a bonus or anything like that. You're able to take advantage of those things. So I can look at an organization overview and see my CPU, my memory, and my storage, and I can see how much resources I'm using across the board. But if I want to dive a little bit deeper, I can look at my vApps and see things like maybe this Ubuntu One VM, and I can see my CPU usage, my memory usage, and storage usage, and all the things that we had previously seen on-prem, but now I have it baked into the cloud. And with the metric selector, I can dig deeper onto things like CPU ready time and network latency and those sorts of things, all the same sort of metrics that you would normally look for on-prem. So as you're trying to make sure that your applications and everything are running well, you're capable of pulling all that data in. But when you deploy a web server, people start to get nervous, right? So one of the other pieces of this that, again, is baked into the platform as part of the service, is not an add-on, is our distributed firewall. So I can have all of my micro-segmentation as well baked in. So right now, we're blocking, we're allowing in HTTPS, but we're blocking ping for anything that's tagged as part of the web server group. And if I go into my security tags, I can go in and I can add that one. I can add this web server in and tag it, and then it's added to the security group. So now when I go back to my distributed firewall, I can ping this box, and I can see that my requests are all timed out, right? Because it's being blocked. If I take this rule and I move it down and I save my changes, I've just flipped an allow and a block rule. So now the ping will be allowed. If I go down, I can see that my request is timing out. The rule hits all of the hosts and my ping goes through. So I, again, have full capability to do this. This isn't something that you have to call our support staff to be able to handle. This is something that we can do out of the box. And that's the main demo, right? I see a question here. What type of security measures has Expedient taken to host our data in your cloud platform? So all of the storage is encrypted at rest, full stop. From a compliance standpoint, we offer attestations to HIPAA, HITRUST, SOC 1, SOC 2, PCI DSS. So all of the big compliance regimes that everybody gets nervous about and concerned about, we offer attestations to those. But we also offer all of the firewalling there, the microsegmentation, the external firewalling. We also offer a number of security services like antivirus, distributed denial of service mitigation, unified threat management. So all of these other various security capabilities and new ones to come that provide a number of security, that provides a security envelope around your application versus just a bunch of individual services. And all of them are backed by managed services and our support staff so that when you have a problem or you have a question, you get an answer to it. But if we look at the overall cloud pod, right, we have Dell PowerEdge 740 XDs, with 25 gig networking. So we have all of the throughput and all the power that you need to power these applications. But because you're paying for it in a resource pool model, you're not paying for the whole thing. You're only paying for the little amount that you actually need. We also offer, here's our full data center map. So we have the two that are in Baltimore. Those are numbers 1 and 2 in red. But we also offer our cloud on-ramp. So if you need to connect to a hyperscale cloud, or you want to connect into the cloud exchange to get to GCP, AWS, Azure, you can get to those very, very easily and very, very quickly. We offer our colo space as well. So if you have physical capabilities, you can put those right next to our cloud and get that full capability, get those full benefits of having everything next to each other. So eliminate the latency and get the super fast networking between the two. Also, there's no egress fees with this. So when you go and move your application in, you don't have to worry about what is the network flow and where does the data come from. All of those egress fees are gone. They don't exist in our cloud. So if you're looking to find out when enterprise cloud is the best fit, if this application existed 2 years ago, it's probably an application in your data center today. But if you have any of these sorts of applications, you're able to bring those onto the platform without having to make any changes. It's a lift and shift. We help you migrate in. Our delivery services are part of the platform. So when you want to migrate your applications from on-prem to us, we help you get that in. And we make sure that it's a smooth process. But if your application has pretty low value through application refactoring, let's say this application is responsible for like $10,000 a year in revenue and it would cost $100,000 to rewrite, it's going to take you 10 years to recoup that. We can help you get the cloud operating model you want without all the refactoring that would cost a ton of money that would take you a very, very long time to get back. And if you interact with any physical systems, mainframe, HPUX, AIX, these are all things that still exist. But things like physical database servers or existing physical security stacks, we can put those in our data center and connect it all up for you so that you get the best of both worlds. So if you want to get your hands on this and click around just like I did, you can go to expedient.com/VMware-test-drive, and you can sign up for a free 30-day test drive. You get 128 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage for all of your applications. You can also reach out to me at aj.kuftick@expedient.com to schedule a test drive as well. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. I'm over here on the left. You can reach out to me, aj.kuftick@expedient.com. You can also reach out to our market vice president, Anthony Estelle, anthony.estelle@expedient.com, and Gary Anzarud from iBank on IT at gary@techtradingpartners.com. And with that, we'll open it up for questions if anybody has any here. I saw we answered 2 of the questions in there. They were very good questions, by the way. Thank you, everybody. Gary, what are you seeing from your customer base around, wanting to migrate to the cloud and take on those sorts of capabilities?
I mean, I think a lot of organizations are either in the process of moving to the cloud or looking at it as their hardware comes up to be refreshed, right? Upgrade. They're determining whether or not they want to reinvest in the hardware, or do they want to look at maybe moving to the cloud and seeing if there's an opportunity there for them to drive efficiencies and also have scalability and maybe some cost savings. I would say always moving to the cloud doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a lot of cost savings because you're swapping one cost for another. But I think there's other things that you can gain from it. And I think, some of the things that you talked about that Expedient offers, the fact that you don't have to, revamp or redo any of the applications if you're using VMware and things of that nature today, makes it very easy to migrate to the cloud. To do some hybrid, I also think is probably a more common theme with most customers today. Not everything needs to move to the cloud. Not everything needs to stay on the prem. And I think some combination of that, along with also using different environments to support different applications, whether you're using Expedient for some things and you're using a competitor for others. I think companies are starting to look at that as well, as where's the best place to put this particular application, not necessarily the entire environment. So those are some of the things that I think that we see in discussions with our customers today.
Awesome. I see one question here in the chat, need for FSMA and FedRAMP. So from a FSMA standpoint, we are building a lot of our things to NIST 853. So we are building a lot of our things to compliance regimes that are more framework based than just an attestation and auditable, right? But from a FedRAMP standpoint, we can work with you on things that you may need. So if you need FedRAMP compliance, let's talk about that. We found a lot of customers want FedRAMP because it's a really nice stamp to be able to say this is what this does. But a lot of that is built on top of existing things like NIST, HIPAA, High Trust, SOC 1 and SOC 2. So there's things inside of FedRAMP that we can line up from other controls to meet your needs from a FedRAMP standpoint. But from a distinct FedRAMP, we have the stamp answer that no. But we can help work around that. And I'm sure Anthony has a lot of thoughts around FedRAMP and those sorts of needs being in that Baltimore area and seeing that from a lot of the federal government customers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's correct, AJ. I think you hit the nail on the head. We're able to satisfy most client requirements via our vehicles that are already in place. However, some clients do absolutely require FedRAMP. We do have some clients that are FedRAMP under the guise of FedRAMP that choose to co-locate within our data center environments. But by far and large, the majority of our customers are satisfied with the vehicles that are in place via our SOC compliance that aligns within this standard.
We've come up at the top of the hour here. Congratulations to Charlie Sherman for winning the Bose SoundLink. So congratulations, Charlie. Karen will be reaching out to you. I appreciate everybody's time today. We've had a really great session. Again, this is all being recorded, so you can go to go.expedient.com/webinar replays to see a replay of this. But you can also reach out to me or Anthony or Gary around any additional questions you have, maybe something you think about later, or reach out to us if you want to talk a little bit further about what our cloud and what iBank on IT can offer. And with that, have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.